What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Modified Rods Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Burrell. Today, I have someone that I've dealt with a couple different companies in the past. We kind of share the same shoe passion, I guess you would say. So today, I have Erik Harbour. What's going on, Erik?
What's up, man? How are you?
So you, I guess, grew up as a Tennessee guy.
Yes, I did. I grew up in Union City, Tennessee. So super small town. It's actually about to be the home of the All-Star show this year. It's kind of funny that I used to go to that show constantly in Millington. We do booths and stuff and whatever, and I'd help with whatever I could there. And then now it's going to be in my hometown, but I'm not going to
Yeah.
be able to make it.
Jerry and them asked me if I was gonna be able to come out, but being it's the weekend before I leave Wednesday for SEMA, I'm like, I can't drive 8 hours, then 8 hours back, and then drive 32 hours. Like, there's just no way with SEMA.
Yeah. For us, we're at that point where we're loading an 18-wheeler with stuff, trying to get things sorted out. Figuring out what we forgot and trying to rest up a little bit before we go. So
Now, with the All Star event, that's probably has been one of my favorite shows. I think I shot 9 features one year on at the same time, like Saturday night, like all 9 back to back. One of them was a cover. One of the guys was like, "There's no way you're gonna be able to shoot mine for cover with 9 of them." I'm like, "Trust me." So we lined
yeah,
them all up at the end of the air base there. The like where the fence was, there was still enough of the runway. So we just lined them up, and it was an assembly line, and that was a pretty cool show for sure. I hate that it went away, and I hate that I'm missing them bringing it back. So
yeah, it was a good time. I mean, it was always fun. It's cool to see it pop up in Union City. They used to have the Goodyear car show there. That was a big thing. Goodyear was what kind of kept Union City afloat at one time. And as a kid, that's what you would go to. Before you drove, you'd go to the Goodyear car show.
yeah.
Our little town is super car culture and car centered, and it's kind of neat to see a show kind of pop back in there now because there hasn't been anything for a while.
So where you living now?
I live in California, so I live in Chino, California. Used to live in Huntington Beach and enjoyed beach life, but office life seems to keep me here most of the time. So I moved here, bought a house by the office, and now I'm in the office more than I'm home. So
That's that work life taking over. So
yep, it has.
so
But what do you do?
I guess let's go back. So what got you into vehicles? Because I know, like we discussed earlier, you was part of Relaxed Atmosphere and everything. So what actually started your passion with the modified vehicles?
Like I said, growing up in that little town, it was kind of the thing. Like there was a lot of different smaller car clubs or whatever running around town. There's a bunch of old dudes building hot rods. There was a lot of that happening. It was happening all over town. There was Goodyear. There was the Goodyear car show, as I mentioned. There was just car culture happening. So it was just kind of natural. It just happened. And I met some friends as growing up in high school. They were into custom cars. And next thing you know, here we go. It was me and Todd Faulkner actually in my driveway putting in the first amplifier ever. And I still give him credit to this day. He's the one that taught me how to put an amplifier in for the very first time in my entire life. And I think I was 15 at the time. And something just clicked at that point, and I've never let go. And I just started doing car audio after that and just stuck with it. Now, the car stuff, that's changed over the years. But I started doing custom cars, going to car shows, even before I was legally able to drive.
Yeah. So I guess you've been tied into the audio aspect of it. So I know you mentioned before we started recording, you'd worked had a stereo shop or something for a while.
Yep. Well, I worked at the local shops in town. Then me and my family opened a shop in Union City there and did really well. It was fun. And then Memphis Car Audio approached me and said, "Hey, you want to come work here?" And I thought, "Yeah, that'd be fun." And I think at that point, I knew I wanted to do the manufacturer side. Like I wanted to get to the next level, and I did, and jumped in right into that, and did that for a few years. While I was there, there's this little brand called Kinetic that we kind of started under the radar there, and that really couldn't pay the bills, so to speak, at that point. So MA Audio called and said, "Hey, we want to increase your money. We want you to come out, put together this big competition team, and can you come to California?" And I was like, "You know what? I got nothing else going on. Why not? Let's just roll." And so I literally packed up and came to California. Moved to Beverly, as they say, but packed it up, came here, started working for MA Audio, did that for a minute, then went back and took on Kinetic, full time for almost a decade. And that's kind of where I built like most of the cool stuff that I built and took to shows was kind of during that Kinetic era. That's where I built my Dodge, which was kind of all over the place, and I still see it on posters in people's garages and whatnot. That one did really well. We had a lot of fun with that one. And then after that, Power Base came along, and literally like 2 days ago was my ninth going into 10th year here at Power Base.
Nice. So I guess let's go back a little bit. So when you left the stereo shop and you got that job offer at Memphis, what did they hire you on at Memphis to do?
So I was tech and warranty. So I literally just did tech and all their warranty returns, and then I helped with product development a little bit. The primary thing that really got them interested was subs and my enclosures and just my knowledge of subwoofers at the time. So I worked pretty extensively with them on a few projects like the LVS and stuff like that, just to kind of help bring it forward. We built a lot of boxes, put a lot of different builds in my expedition at the time. Went to a lot of shows with it. It was a ton of fun. I enjoyed it. I mean, it was kind of the stepping stone, if you will, to everything else.
So I know you were the one that used to set all the shows up, like at Slamming and Jamming and all that stuff. Weren't you the one that did the
Yeah.
booth and all that?
Yeah, so I'd show up and set all that up, deal with the promoters and put that kind of all together. And most of that just came because I was already going to a car show anyway. So why not put a booth up, and just kind of tie it all together. And I did that for a long time. I mean, that's kind of what we did,
I guess with you doing the show aspect of Memphis, that's kind of what got the mini truck, the custom truck world involved with Memphis, because I think you were pushing that with your friends and contacts and stuff to get that out there at that time. And that was, I guess, what, early 2000s that you were doing?
Yeah, something like, it would have been right about then. Yeah. I don't want to age myself with graduation years, but yeah, it would have been right around then. And we did stuff with club guys like Matt Long had an Envoy that we loaded up with Memphis stuff, and we just did a whole lot. We did a lot. We did football players' cars. We did basketball players' cars. We just kept pushing it. And in the car show world or the car scene, it's like if you knew me and you had something cool, we'd figure out how to put something in there. And that's just what we did.
I've literally had Memphis in every one of my SEMA builds. I was like a MB Quartz Orion guy back in the the 90s, but I've literally had Memphis in all my stuff. Now you said you left there and went, so you'd already done Kinetic first after Memphis.
No,
right?
at Memphis, Kinetic existed, but it was kind of hush hush. It was under the radar.
I never knew they were linked together.
I think I can talk about that now. I think there's like statute of limitations now or whatever, but one of our guys literally started Kinetic, and everybody was kind of behind him. I was doing a lot of the testing. We were kind of all helping that progress. It wasn't called that at the time. And then everybody got in trouble for selling these batteries. He left and went to do what became Kinetic, got some partners. They did that for a few years while I went to MA Audio. And kind of continued the same pattern. So I went to MA, I did tech, product development, marketing. We'd go into a bunch of shows, take the truck and trailer all over the country.
And you were there with Captain, right? Kevin?
Yeah, I was there on his way out. So he literally moved me here so he could go do other things. I think he left and went to Rockford at that point.
Yeah, I had my what was it? I guess in my Protege 5, I had MA Audio in it. They'd used it at a couple of Nopi shows and stuff, back in that was 2002, 2003, maybe.
I remember that car. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And then it went to Bazooka. And I think after Katrina, Bazooka pretty much disappeared.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot from them, to be honest. I don't think I've seen them much in a while since then.
I know they were down in the New Orleans area, and I think that they must have got hit pretty hard or something, because after that, they pretty much fell off the map.
I'm curious. I'll have to ask a couple of people. I haven't really seen much. I mean, they were always nice folks, but I haven't seen them much since. It's funny you mentioned that. I haven't seen them.
Well, I know me and you worked together on, I guess it was Decade and Dark Earth. I had Kinetic batteries in both of those.
Yeah.
And then I guess after you left Kinetic, that's when you went to Power Base.
Yep, that's when I left and came here. So
Kinetic pretty much disappeared for the most part after that. Are they still around?
Um, yeah, they exist, but I mean,
It's not like it
and
was when you were there.
yeah, they exist in some smaller entity or whatever. I mean, they're huge. Their parent company's huge, but and I try to explain to them that you can have a brand name and you can have all the marketing and all the support that you had, but once you lose key people that are making those contacts and keeping those relationships going, they're not necessarily going to take to somebody that they don't know, especially if they don't understand the world they're trying to be in. And I think that happened. Like they just didn't really know where they were going after that.
Yeah.
But hey, I wish them the best at the time, and I came here. It was the better move for me, and it's turned out to be great. Almost 10 years later now.
So with you at Powerbase now, what did you say your title was at Powerbase?
So I'm vice president of Powerbase.
So what did you start in as at Powerbase?
I came here for Western regional sales and marketing, and they knew right away that I needed to do product development work and help with that. So I did that. Worked on a lot of stuff with the VP at that time. Great dude, Stephen Bach. He passed away during COVID.
Oh wow!
But he had already left Powerbase prior to that, and obviously it was. I then moved into more just product development kind of thing, and to be honest, that's what I agreed to. I agreed to do product development and marketing, and just focus on what I enjoyed kind of the most. And then by nature of, I guess, me in a sense, I just started taking on all the other roles around the building, making sure business was moving the way it needed to. And it was just a natural progression, really, to say, all right, well, you're really the VP. And that's kind of what happened. I fell into it, if you will, by just taking on everything there is to do. And some people say, well, what all do you do? And I'm like, well, I do product, I do marketing, I help with sales, I've done accounting, I've packed orders, I've built subs, I've even vacuumed before. So, I mean, there's not much that I don't do around here. So I just say I'm the VP of things, pretty much all things.
So you said how you went from, you got offered the job at Memphis and moved from there. So how did you get linked up with Powerbase?
How did that happen? Oh, that's actually a good story. So, I was in Texas at meetings for Kinetic, and I knew that it was probably about time. Like things weren't fun. It wasn't happy.
No, yeah.
Yeah, there was just some things that just weren't settling right with me. And if anybody knows me, if I get a notion sometimes and it sticks, like I'm just going to go at it 100%. Bull in a china shop sometimes. But I was looking around online. I saw Powerbase had like an opening, and I'd emailed them prior to that just to get my feet wet and see what was what. And Steven had emailed me back and said, "Hey, we'd love to have you if you want to come in and interview, and you got a resume." And I was like, I haven't done a resume in a decade, but I can put something together if you really need one. And he said, "Nah, just come in and see us or whatever." And I said, "All right, we'll see." And that was a couple weeks before that.
Were they
And
local?
when what's that?
Were they local to you at the time?
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Brea, which wasn't far away at the time. It was 20 minutes away or whatever. And so I was in Texas. I got this weird, just like vibe, like it just didn't feel right. And I texted him and said, "Hey, is that spot still open?" And he was like, "Sure. When do you want to start?" And I said, "Oh, so I don't need to interview." He's like, "Well, for formalities, you should still come in." I said, "Tell you what, I'm going to take 2 weeks vacation and then I'll see you then." And that's literally what I did. I didn't even go to the meeting the next day. I got on a plane. I called my friends that were reps for Powerbase and said, "What do you think?" They said, "Dude, it's great stuff. Just go listen to it." Because I didn't want to be somewhere that I wasn't comfortable with saying, "I support this. I'd use this." I needed to make sure it was something I liked. And I knew they owned Image Dynamics also. So I knew I liked that, but I needed to know what Powerbase was. And all my reps said, "Just go listen to it, man. Give it a listen, and I guarantee you're going to love it." And so I literally didn't go to that meeting. I got on a plane. I changed my flight, got on a plane. They called, "Hey, where are you at?" And I was like, "I'm at the airport. I'm taking vacation. I'll let you know when I get back." And that was kind of the end of it. And during that vacation, I came here and interviewed, and yeah, the rest is history. So
you had to do some research, making sure it wasn't Sparkomatic or Craco you were.
yeah, sure. I mean, through all the things I've done, I can at least proudly say that I haven't tried to sell somebody something that I wouldn't use myself. And to me, that meant a lot, because there's a lot of people that kind of go around saying the best is the best when it's really not. And I get it. You've got to, as a marketing person, you've got to say it's the best in the world. But
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty true to my word. And if I tell you it's good, it's good. And there's even some stuff in our line that I just don't like, but we got to have it because certain customers love it. And it's always going to be that way, especially when we've got a catalog of like 250 items. I don't have to
Yeah.
love them all, but I love the majority of them, and that was super important. So I came in, listened to stuff, and talked to people before I made the decision. And to be honest, like, I'm really glad I did. It's been great. I was stressing myself out with Kinetic, and I mean, you would see it like at SEMA and stuff. We were burning it at both ends with suite parties, booth parties, big booths, limos, just crazy stuff happening all week.
Didn't you do like palms a couple times? Like,
yeah, we did that with Penn. We would sponsor kind of all of his parties, then we'd have our own party in the suite, and it was like run the booth all day, set up a suite at night. Me and Big Bill were running ragged all over Vegas for weeks at a time. And I look back at pictures back then, and I go, man, I was like almost dead. Because I felt that way, to be honest. Like, we were just running it so thin, right to the edge all the time. And it was fun. Don't get me wrong, it was fun. But it's sometimes the stress levels have to go away, and they certainly did when I came here.
Well, you mentioned Bill. I guess so. So Big Bill has pretty much become, I guess you'd say, your security over the last couple of decades, because like you don't see you without Bill hovering around. So
yeah, I mean, it works, right? It's we'd go everywhere and we'd hang out all the time, and it just kind of happened naturally. And he's a protective kind of dude anyway. But
well, most people aren't going to mess with someone that's 9 foot tall or whatever. So.
No, I remember one time we all just went out here locally to one of the nightclubs with some friends, and he played that role there, and there was some dude that was just pushing up on all the chicks with us. And next thing you know, he just grabbed dude and ripped his whole shirt off of him, told him to get on somewhere, and it was a wild night. But yeah, he's definitely the bodyguard in the group, that's for sure.
For sure. So with your industry connections like that, though, or with your jobs you've had, it's allowed you to build some pretty cool stuff. So touch base on some of the cool stuff. I know you mentioned your Ram. So
yeah, that, to be honest, like that was the best, like, diamond in the rough build, if you will, that I never planned to do.
That was a third gen, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Well, it was, but then we put the next gen front end on
Fourth gen front clip, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I had an Expedition at the time. It was bagged and airbrush painted, candy, all that fun stuff, and we did some good shows and had a lot of fun with that. And then they were building this Dodge for somebody else at 714 Motorsports, and like, I don't know if he ran out of money. I don't remember what it was. They bagged it. They needed to do body work. Like, it was just in really bad shape, but it could have gotten somewhere with investment. And I don't know, something clicked, and I was like, I just want to get that truck. He's not going to finish it. I'll just get it, and let's just body drop it like next week. And Todd and the guys at 714 at the time were like, yeah, we can do that. And so I got it from dude. I sold the Expedition. Did I trade it? Yeah, I think I traded him, actually, and some money or whatever. I think he gave me money. I gave him the Expedition. I got the Dodge, and we literally ripped it apart and started cutting the body off a couple of days later, and SEMA was 2 months away.
True meaning of SEMA crunch.
Yeah, it wasn't planned at all. And then I had work trips. And
where was the truck at SEMA?
The truck was in the Kinetic booth.
Okay.
I had work trips happening while that was happening. I left the checkbook, and that was the dumbest idea ever. But actually did a street truck story on kind of that concept about, you forget about the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
The nuts, the bolts, the sandpaper, the tape, it was just eating me up. Eric, we need more money in the account. Transfer more money out of savings. And I'm like, what are we doing? This is stupid.
What year did you have it at SEMA?
Oh, I don't even remember. I I'd lie if I told you. It was, well, let me see. I could tell you it was 10 years here, 15 years ago. Yeah, probably. At
So that
least.
would be 29 or 2009, something like that.
Sounds about right, maybe. Yeah.
Whatever happened to that truck?
Oh man. Geez. That was rough. So I sold it, and he got the truck, and I'm not going to bring him into this because I don't want to,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want to put his stuff out there like that without saying, hey, I'm going to talk about you here. But
All good.
amazing dude, flew in from Iraq to check out the truck. We took him around, drove it. He loved it, bought it, went back to work, not military, but work stuff in Iraq with the military.
Contractor, yeah.
Yeah, and the truck stayed, and then we transported it around a little bit. Um, Bottom line, he's never had the truck. I think he may have it. No, he actually doesn't have it now. He's never had the truck. It never became like his own, and it sucked. I really wanted to see him enjoy it. And I even told him at one time, just bring it back to me. Bring it back to me and I'll keep it. I had space in the garage.
Yeah.
I'll keep it until you figure out what you want to do. And I wished he had, but we as a group of friends tried to keep it safe for a while, and then it got into the wrong hands and got stripped. And at last I heard, it was in a shop in Mississippi I'm gonna leave them out of this as well, but he's pretty much disappeared and took dude's money, and it's a hot mess, and I wish him the best. I really hope he at least gets some shell of a truck back in some form, because like it was heartbreaking, because we had put so much effort into that truck, and it had done so many cool things. We did like Exotica LA with it, like, porn show.
Yeah.
And it was in the middle of this show it should have never been in, but it was sexy enough to be there, I guess.
But us that's been in this long time, like we have, you hear about these stories where these shops and everything, like everybody knows everybody when you break it down, like it's all the whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon deal. Like we all know everybody, but you always have that one, like you said, that one shop that does whatever, and it shouldn't.
This was multiple shops, but I mean, like I said, I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus without me telling them I'm going to first. But.
Now you mentioned it was shot a few times while you had it. Who shot it for the stuff it was shot for?
So we set it all up originally with Sport Truck at the time, and we were doing the cover. We knew that was happening. We knew we were going to do a poster. And as with the expedition and this, we decided we were going to put, Playboy Playmates on it. And that's what we did. And that same weekend, we shot it for Tailgate also. And the concept was, we're going to put that on cover. I just kept my mouth shut. As long as I could, and we did a dual cover. That was the next thing, was we're going to do a dual feature with this other dude. And we shot all that, and then they were like, wait a minute, their cover is going to come out at the same time, and you're on a poster inside that issue. So we're not doing this. So I think I got like the side, the little side feature in the bottom corner on the cover.
So you were one of the ones who were like, hey, has it ever been shot? And you went, no,
In theory, we had just done it. And we were also going to do trucking as well.
So who was the photographers for it though? Do you remember?
Galen Armento was in there. Who else? Jason Mulligan.
Okay.
And who else was I working with?
Mulligan, is that he was a who did he
at
shoot?
The time, he was with Tailgate, I think, at the time.
That's right. Yeah.
And then Galen and oh man, I feel bad. I can't remember his name.
So that wasn't when John was there, was it? It was before John.
Yeah, it was before. I'm just drawing a blank.
Because I worked for John quite a bit at Sport Truck when he was there. So
that would have been everybody prior to that, basically.
Now you talk about the model stuff. I remember that one year at SEMA, I text you because you'd been using Jenny at some of your booths, and it's like I'm riding down the strip, and all of a sudden Jenny's on one of those trucks riding down the strip. I'm like, isn't this Jenny?
Yeah. Yeah. Jenny had that happen to her. Erica had that happen to her. Or Hannah. I don't know which one well, yeah. Anyway, that happened to her. It's just kind of the way, like what they do is they buy photo sets,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, they're putting them on the little flippy cards and putting them on the side of those
Hey,
trucks.
those aren't the girls that show up to your room?
Apparently not. Apparently
I
not.
thought that's what that was.
I enjoy getting those cards and taking those pictures and sending them to them, going, "Hey, are you coming to my room or what?" It's like, and still to this day, people find some. So
I know.
if you're in Vegas, I'll give you a SEMA tip, folks. Don't trust the little card, because I probably know who's on it, and they're not coming to your room.
There was one year we were walking out, going somewhere. We didn't go to SEMA one year. Was leaving. These two girls walked out of a hotel. Both of them had on tennis shoes and little dresses. I'm like, I bet you that's who actually showed up to the room. It wasn't and they were both busted. Now, me and my daughter went to Vegas a couple of years ago. She was in college, and I was like, yeah, they explained the flipper cards to her and stuff. And she's like, what is that? And I started grabbing them, and I handed her one, and she's like, oh my God, you're really taking that from them? And then after like a couple of them, she's like, we need to get some of these. I need to take them back to college and like show the football team and stuff. Like, this is what goes on in Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, they're like trading cards.
It become a game. Like, hey, can I have this? And here I am handing my daughter these cards of these nude girls. So,
well, we used to do like the postcards, right? That was, instead of doing catalogs, we do the little postcards. And so me and Bill and the others would go out on the strip with the postcards, and we'd click them and put them in front of those guys' faces. They didn't really like that at all. They weren't having it. But
I remember one of my buddies one year was like, hey, do you have any with guys on them? And like, they didn't understand. It was like, no, he's like, I'm looking for guys. Do you have guys? And it's like this big burly, got a big beard. And the guy was like, no, I just have these.
Right. Yeah. It's Vegas.
Yep.
But,
so after the Ram, though, you said you built I remember you said you had the Range Rover.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess in the lineage, I did like a Mustang, the Expedition, the Dodge. After that, I had a Tahoe. So I'd grabbed, the twins from NC. I had grabbed, the Tahoe from them. And my goal was to make it kind of a driver, shower, finish the interior, which they hadn't gotten around to yet.
You said the twins.
Yeah, the twins from Mississippi, and negative camber. So the hides.
Yeah.
So I got it from them, and I did the interior. Like, All Star was coming up in, I think, a week. And let's just say, hey, let's knock the interior out. Let's do the headliner, seats, new carpet. Here's some billet stuff for the motor. Let's just do what we can do.
So the theme is you like crunch time. That's your goal now.
Yeah, I also think like I don't decide on these things until it's, we got 2 weeks. Yeah, let's do it. But man, we get it done. Like that's the coolest thing like about all the friends over the years, is that there's a few select individuals that I know, if I decided tomorrow I was going to build something and I needed it done in a week, they'd probably show up and we'd get it done. And it happened, like it definitely happened. Like with the Dodge, I went to SEMA and set up. The truck was still not finished. They showed up with the truck, putting interior parts into it outside, trying to get it together. Like the Expedition, we were spraying paint on it the night before we left and put it in the trailer wet. Yeah.
Isn't that how SEMA's supposed to work, though? Like, you either install parts there or on the way?
I mean, I guess it's the only way I think I knew how to do it, but
I quit doing that after the first couple of years. Like now, like mine was done in like end of September. I'm like, I'm not playing that game. I'm driving it. It has to be done.
But also, I know like I never wanted to do something that was simple. Like we needed to cut it apart. We needed to build some crazy console that was one off. We needed to push the limits a little bit. And then when I got through the Tahoe, that was fun. I kind of got fed up with driving a bag vehicle, and I had my Rover, and I thought, you know what, I'd like to do some more to it. And So we did a really amazing audio system at Alpine. Steve Brown helped build that, there. We put all that together. It was a kinetic Alpine kind of thing, and took that to a lot of shows with Dub. So it would be kind of as their, how they had like all the different luxury cars sitting out, all the black cars, if you will. So it was one of those for a while, and then we took it to SEMA and did the same thing with that. And that was kind of like my, you know what, I like just getting in a car and driving thing. And I don't know, like things changed. Like I just kind of got to the point where it wasn't doing it for me. I think it's because I'm just constantly working on stuff and constantly busy, and I just didn't want to devote the time, if you will. And then I got into the Teslas, and I got one because, like I said earlier, I think every California resident gets one at some point in time.
One
if you
per
get
household.
The year mark, you're going to get one.
One per household.
Yeah, exactly. And so I started driving that, and man, it's the best thing ever. I'm on my second one. I've already planned the next one. I just get in the car and go. I don't even turn the stereo up much, to be honest. But now, if I get in the car, if I got into a car with, the stereo, the Range Rover obviously had a stereo forever, and I'd beat the block down in it anytime I got in it. But other than that, I wouldn't really listen to the music too loud.
Yeah. So you're not doing nothing to Tesla? You're not putting a big crazy stereo in it?
I'm actually taking it apart and working on OE direct fit, replacement stuff. And it's a series for us that works great. We do it for Ford, Chevy, Nissan, Jeep. We do a lot of that. Toyota, and Tesla was kind of the next natural progression. And so we started working on that. And yeah, I mean, it's cool. I think it's fun to have the advantage of something that's going to pop right in the car, give you better sound. And, our goal is to make sure it fits, make sure it works, make sure it sounds better. And it's mine. It's my car. I'll just pull it in, take it apart. So we've been doing that a lot lately.
Now, you said you do some of the product development stuff. What's involved to do product development for a company like that?
So for us, I do all of our product development. My team consists of my kind of tech head lead engineer guy, Dave Myers, that helps me with all of the aspects of what am I forgetting, what am I missing. He comes up with a lot of the great ideas. He really does, and he helps kind of go through the install process, make sure it's installable. Works out all the kinks. I've got engineers. Rich Coe is one of our engineers. He's been doing electronics forever. And then I work directly with all of our engineers at the factory. So if we're going to do something, it's now down to I draw it on paper. I pretty much pen and paper it, or I'll create it, on the computer, Illustrator or Photoshop or whatever, and get the idea down in my head of what it needs to be. And then we'll start working it from there. We'll do, samples that are CNC machined or 3D printed now. Used to that didn't exist. Now we can 3D print things, so that makes it a little easier because we can build some stuff, kind of look at it, see how it fits before we actually go and spend a bunch of money to make the mold to do that.
Yeah.
Luckily, we're vertically integrated, so my boss, the president of Powerbase, his father's our factory, so I'm literally connected to the factory at the hip, and it's kind of fun because I've been doing this for a while, and I've been to this factory before with other brands. Not going to say who, but we build a lot. We do a lot of stuff, not just in car. We do a lot of stuff in pro. We do a lot of stuff in home. We're the manufacturer for a lot of that. So it was kind of natural for them to say, go build a consumer car brand. And that's what they did. So it's a lot of work, to be honest. Like right now this year was 20 projects that we kind of let happen. There's probably another 20 sitting around that we haven't started, and it's every day. We do listening, we do curbs, we put them in cars, we make adjustments. Calipers just sit on my desk all the time. It's not like I just go pick it out of a book and go, give me 2 of those and 1 of those and paint it red. I'll have that. That's not what we're doing. We're literally drawing stuff up from scratch and getting to the end result. And it's fun. I mean, there's a lot of brands out there that are good brands and they just kind of pick stuff off shelves like ours at the factory, but that's definitely not what we do here. We're breaking things down pretty deep as far as the development side goes, and it's been fun. It's been a great few years of just kind of handling most of that and managing the projects along the way. It's been fun.
Now, with you having a couple decades in the automotive audio section, what is the biggest change you've seen that's happened over those couple decades like that?
Um, it used to, loud SPL stuff was big. Sound quality kind of came through and did its thing for a minute. Then we kind of went back to being loud and kind of concerty, if you will, or concert cars is what some of them call it. In some countries, that's still happening. The boom era of the boom cars, or the cars that go boom, and that's still kind of happening in some spots. But uh, a lot of that's changed. Competition car audio isn't really what it used to be. Car show guys are doing audio, but they're kind of hiding a lot of it now.
Yeah.
Some guys, which I love seeing, do like the nostalgic builds where they're really building old walls and showing the amps and doing the old school stuff, which I think is great. Installs used to be over the top fiberglass and neon and all this stuff, and now you just see them nice and trimmed and tucked away, and it still looks the part, obviously. So that's kind of changed a lot. But I tell you what, I've learned a lot in the last few years, like the last couple of years, is the do-it-yourselfer has gone through the roof.
Really?
It's I guess it's the nature of our world, and I hate to say it, but when everybody was sitting at home during that thing, doing nothing, internet sales spiked. Like no one expected it, but everybody was at home just spending money. I mean, I guess it was free money for most of them, but
Yeah.
they were just spending money like crazy. And our industry boomed, and a lot of industries did too. But with that came the dude in the garage building it himself and doing the install himself. And luckily with our OE stuff, it's kind of plug and play. You really can't mess it up. But with the other stuff, the bigger subs, the amps, all that fun stuff, if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna have a mess. And it's what's happened. Like that's the shift now. Is the guys are kind of trying to do it themselves. And we tell everybody just go to a shop, man. You probably shouldn't build a box if you don't know what I'm talking about. When I'm asking you questions, just let them go build a box, man. Let them do the work. That's what they're there for.
Now, what's your thoughts on how all the OEM stuff is becoming so integrated now? Like, back in the day, we would swap out for that single DIN or double DIN unit. Now everything's so integrated. You got to have a DSP. Like the stereos are better. I mean, like my wife's Tahoe, like we're not even putting a stereo in it this year because the factory stereo sounds better than half the stuff I've had over the last couple of decades. So how do you compete with what the OEM stuff's doing now?
That's really changed a lot, and it's getting worse. It just keeps getting worse. And you mentioned DSP. We did a DSP recently, and that was one of the funnest projects because of the graphics side. Just building the graphics behind it and working on the app to me was a lot of fun. It's a lot of work to get that right, though. But you almost need one with almost any install these days. And I was talking to another friend a couple of days ago about his Chevy truck, and he said, "Hey, I just want to put subs in here." And I said, "Well, you need this $300 module to put subs in." He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, you can't just tap in anymore. You're going to need the module to make it happen.
But you're not buying a head unit though. So
right, you're still using the stock head unit, and you're just going to add an amp, but you still need a $300 module. Whereas used to, you could do that for like $20. It's a wire. But if you've got any of the newer trucks and you want to do full audio in it, I mean, you're a few $100s in just adapters and these modules that need to be programmed. And hats off to the guys that are creating all of that and figuring out that code and breaking it down. But like you said, the audio in some of the newer cars just sounds great, and it's doing that because they're doing it with 16 speakers or 32 speakers or whatever, and their DSP is set up with time alignment, all of those things to make it sound that way. Whereas you used to get that sound with 4 speakers and a sub, now it takes 32 in some cars and 16 or whatever, and it's a bunch of small speakers, but a lot of it's just processed. It's processed to sound that way. And so you've got to stop that processing to be able to put something else in there. So
you're looking like
some cars you just don't touch.
You look like the Escalades, like there's 2 in each headrest. Like it's ridiculous. But like my wife's Tahoe, without doing a box in the back and completely destroying the usability of the back of her Tahoe, you can't really put nothing in it. You can't I mean, you could put the 110 on the side, but like that 110 is really not going to make that much difference. But it's like, I always say these manufacturers are doing what we did 20, 30 years ago. They're doing that now off the assembly line. So I've seen a shift in the audio aftermarket world because I think there's more amps and speakers and less head units now. Like, does anybody even still make head units?
Oh yeah, they do. There was kind of a lull in head unit sales during the shutdown of things because they couldn't get them, and the chip factories burnt up, so getting head units was hard to do.
Yeah.
But then after that, from my understanding, the sales just kept going because they were hard to get, and people sell them every day. Most of my guys that do head units, yeah, it's their bread and butter still. It's still happening, and the reason is that not everyone's driving a brand new car, and your business is in the guy that or the kid really that's 16 or 17. Some places 20. I mean, these days as kids don't think even want to drive, but
No,
but let's say in Tennessee the kid's driving at 14 probably. He's probably already had
not
2 jobs.
Legally though.
Right, he's probably got 2 jobs, smoking a cigarette and driving a car. But
I don't know if that cigarette he's smoking in Tennessee.
That's true. But that's kind of what you're looking forward to, is the guy that's got the older car that's just finally ended its cycle of electronics working right. He needs to upgrade it.
Yeah.
It's really not the guy that just went out and bought a 2024, because chances are he's probably happy with it. Hopefully he wants to make some upgrades, add a sub, add whatever. But the real market's the older vehicles that need the help, need the new stuff, need to be upgraded.
Well, where do you see the aftermarket audio world going at this point?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a hard one. Like, I think for us, we're real heavy focused, on that direct fit type stuff. Power sports is big for us, which is great. Subs and amps we do pretty well with, but the reality is all of us have subs and amps, so you've really got to have something completely different to kind of change that, or have a need of someone wanting a sub and amp. And we've got some amazing subs and amps. We just came out with a brand new line. It's probably the best amp I've ever touched. And even Rich Coe said in all his years of audio, it's probably one of the best things he's ever touched. But it's not our focus. Like, our focus is really the OE replacement stuff. And the DSP is a good focus. I think that some brands are focusing elsewhere. Some brands are doing motorcycle audio, and they're doing great things with it. I had a discussion last SEMA with a couple other brands that kind of, guys that I've known for a long time. And we said, hey, man, you're doing really great at this OE stuff. And I said, I appreciate it. You're doing great at this motorcycle stuff. And it was kind of that gentleman's agreement of stay out of our lane, we'll stay out of yours. And it's because the industry is just so small, even though it seems big, but it really isn't. Like, we all know each other. We trade seats. The seat that I took here, or not took, but came into here at Powerbase, I used to work with him at MA. That's just kind of how it works. Like, we've all worked together at some point. My national sales manager has known me since I was an idiot kid at Memphis, and I was the tech guy, and he was one of the big sales guys. And he's my national sales manager. So it's a very small world, but it looks much bigger. So we all kind of focus on different things. Some guys are really heavy focused on high powered amps and subs. Some, like I said, some are doing motorcycles, some are doing marine stuff, and that's great. Some are doing more power sports only, and that's cool. We're doing kind of the OE direct fit. We are venturing into the higher end stuff just because I want to, and I enjoy it myself. Yeah. And I think that it's time we kind of show the industry that, we can build stuff at that level.
It's weird for me not doing audio in the Tahoe this year, but it's like, I'd love to throw, a couple 15s or something in there, but she's like, it's my wife's Tahoe, and she's like, I use this daily. She goes, I can't have a big, massive box and no storage. So it's like, this is the first year SEMA stuff that I've not put any audio in it. So it's kind of like, I'm almost twitching, like, okay, well, I need to do something.
Something's missing. Yeah, something's missing.
But we're doing the interior and everything, so it'll still balance out.
Sure.
I know we mentioned, before we got on the podcast here, though, the sponsorship side of stuff. So, I get asked all the time, how do you get sponsored? How do you work with these companies? Because I've got, most of the time 15 to 30 different companies, depending on what I'm doing that year, that whether it's a small part or a big part or whatever, if a kid, or like you said, sometimes these 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds or whatever are, seeing the stuff and they're like, hey, I'm into this. I'd love to see about a sponsorship stuff. What is your take on, as a industry, VP, to the sponsorship side of things? What does it take for these kids to even catch your eye?
It's changed a lot. Used to, guys came prepared. They had proposals, they had a plan, they knew what was up. And I pride myself on being one of the few maybe in the industry that can look at a project, and I'm not going to say the person, but the project,
Yeah.
and the history of that person, and know if it's getting finished or not. And there's a lot of stuff like through back in the day that I said no to, and they just get mad, like just mad, angry, just talking shit everywhere they went. And those trucks still aren't done. And I knew they weren't. I knew it wasn't going to happen. Um, and I think for me, it's funny because I used to be that guy too. I needed help building stuff. I had sponsors, I had proposals, I had all these things. Even though I was someone in the industry or whatever, I still went the extra
Yep.
mile and did the work. I didn't just
Same.
say, "Hey, it's Erik, let me have something." I did the work for them. I made sure they were happy, and that's kind of important. But now I would say the right word is the audacity of some of the emails we get. And I get them every day. And a matter of fact, I got one, it was Monday, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. And it was, hey, I need you to call me immediately. Here's what I got. I'm going to need you to pay for this. I'm going to need you to pay for that. And it's going to be great. It's going to be the best thing in the world, but I need you to call me immediately. And obviously I didn't. I was doing other things. Got another email. I'm checking to see if you got that. I haven't received my phone call. Like, dude, you're out. And then you get some that come at you with, I'm going to bring so much more exposure to your brand in my town. And okay, you probably will, but I mean, I don't know. Is there 20,000 people there, or are we talking a million people? I don't know. And I also believe that SEMA has, and I get a lot of flack for my opinions on some of this, but SEMA has really changed the way that happens because SEMA's become a zoo. It's becoming a car show. It's cool for car guys.
Build now.
Yeah, it's cool for car guys because it's a car show now, and it's so less about the trade anymore, and so more about the zoo of cars out front.
Yeah.
And I remember when it was important if you had a car inside, and if you had a feature car, it was still as important. Now it's they're a dime a dozen, honestly. And so when they come with the email of, oh, it's the SEMA car, my first question is, where is it going? And some of our friends have said that, and I've asked them that question, and they kind of got mad about it, but later on they understood. And a lot of them come premature and go, I'm building this for SEMA. And then I'll say, right, with who? For what booth? Oh, I don't know that yet.
I'm just going to take it out there.
Yeah. So you're hoping to. Cool. Got it. All right. Now that we've got that clear, what else are you doing? And that's kind of what I email guys back and say, you've told me about this SEMA Hope or this confirmed SEMA thing, which is cool. But what else are you going to do? I want to see what other shows you're going to do. Are you going to leave your hometown? Are you going to leave your home state? Do you have magazines planned? I think one of the biggest mistakes guys that have been doing this a while make is they'll have something they've built before and they're redoing it. And they say, well, it's been in so-and-so magazine. Well, that's cool, but it wasn't with me. So is it going to be in so-and-so magazine again?
Yeah, not let you completely redo it.
Right, you're right. So let's focus on what's happening from me forward, not what happened with that same vehicle me behind.
Yeah.
And so I tell them, let's make sure that we're getting some kind of progress outside of just SEMA. And a lot of guys love that feedback because some dudes have a show roster that, they're never at home. And it's great. It's cool to see them going to shows, doing events. They're traveling all over the place. Those are the guys we want to support. The guy that's in the parking lot with another 2,000 cars that paid a whole bunch of money to be there, most people aren't going to see it. And if they do, great. But I want people to see it every week. I want them to see it in show coverage every week on Instagram or Facebook or wherever. And see them out there doing it. Does it have to be the best thing in the world? No, it absolutely doesn't. But there has to be like a want or a desire from the owner to get out and show the world that project.
So you go
And
through and vet these guys that say, hey, I have X, Y, and Z. And like you said, whether it's the nicest thing in the world or not, the fact that they're promoting and being out there is something that catches your eye versus it being the flashiest thing in the world.
yeah, sure. And I look them up. You know, if they give me Instagrams or whatever, I'll look them up
I got
and see
12
what's happening.
followers.
Yeah, and that honestly, it doesn't matter to me, you know. But if you're getting a lot done, like you're passionate about it, you know, showing the world that I love what I'm doing here and I'm doing it because I want to, then I sometimes will get behind it just for that.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of guys that come in, you know, saying I'm the best guy in the world, I'm gonna build the best thing ever, and they talk to me like I've never done this before, and I just sit back and laugh. And as a matter of fact, I had one, and I like working with him. Don't get me wrong. And we were chatting at SEMA, and he was trying to tell me about how roll in and roll out works, and the parade, and feature cars and stuff. And I said, "Yeah, I'm about 7 deep already in my lifetime, so I got it. I understand." But you know, until then, there was no reason for me to explain to him that, you know, I'd done all this. But I think a lot of them are used to dealing with folks at different factories that don't do this or haven't done this. So they're coming at them with a build that's wild, and it probably isn't going to get finished. But sometimes you got to, you know, drop back and punt and hope it gets done. But
I
I
always
like to wait until they're a little almost finished. I like to tell them, hey, I'm probably down, but get a little farther and then send me pictures. Let's see where you're at.
I always use the analogy, like, you know, I work with drop stars and TIS quite a bit. And if they're like, hey, we have an event coming up at the NASCAR track in Atlanta that where it's not a car show, but it's, you know, whatever, we're doing a booth. We need some vehicles. I'll stop what I'm doing and I go down there, whether it's a small sponsor or, you know, somebody big like that. If they call and go, hey, we like your vehicle enough that we want it there, I go out of my way to do that, because then the next vehicle, they're gonna be like, hey, this guy went out of his way. It was clean. He was here. It was together. It wasn't, you know, trash. Like,
yeah, it makes it easy once
yeah.
they know you're going to do what you say you're going to do. Then it's easy to work with those people. And you know, I've got guys like that they could email me tomorrow and they know they're good. You know, it's just we've done enough together over the years. It's fine. Whatever you need, let's just figure it out. You know?
I had somebody tell me at SEMA one time, I was like, yeah, when you say you're going to do something, I know it's going to be done. I know it's going to be right. I know it's going to look like what you say it's going to look like. And they're like, here's the rendering of this truck. There's that truck. And I'm like, that's not the same truck. And they're like, yeah, it's garbage. And there's like, when you say you're involved, we know 100%. We don't question it. That's why this year's SEMA spot was confirmed. Last year at SEMA didn't have the Tahoe, didn't have a game plan of what we were doing. I just said, hey, this is kind of what I want to do. What's your thoughts? I said, cool, we have you a spot. Here's these products. Let us know what else you need. Had everything lined up, because it's you can't just do that first year and just walk in and hope it happens.
No, I think a lot of them assume it works that way, but you know, and I think that a lot of people get burned over the years and they just get so against it. And you know, I actually do a different thing. Like we do a lot of different levels, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'll tell guys, if you really want to come at me at 100% kind of sponsorship, that's cool, but I'm going to own that thing for a minute. And I'll take you way back. I know it's your podcast, but I'm still going to do it because that wouldn't be me if I didn't.
That's why I have you all.
Years ago when we did Kinetic with you on, I don't know, it was one of the trucks, and you sold it before you got home. I was so
pissed.
A
blue truck.
Yeah, I was I'm like, what is he doing, dude? This is stupid. Like,
sold at SEMA, had no plans of it happening. Some dude tracked me down and just threw me a shit ton of money and said, I want it.
Ask anybody, they'll tell you. I was like, man, this dude.
I'm sorry.
And the concept was that, like, SEMA matters, but it doesn't. It's everything after that matters the most.
Get 2 covers out of that truck though, and they're
You did. And there's a couple other guys that I've worked with that have done the same, and it's turned out that we get along great, and we build stuff all the time, and it's good because the magazine coverage, you know, is happening. Everything's kind of coming together. But
I called the shop that built it because they had the biggest, I guess you say, investment in it. I called the shop. We were doing the SEMA cruise. We were pulling out, and I called him before we left, and he called me back during the cruise. I remember we rolled the windows up, told everybody, "Y'all be quiet, y'all be quiet." And I'm like, "Hey, I got a guy that's serious about wanting to buy this truck. I didn't plan on selling it. It wasn't for sale. I gave him the it's not for sale price, and he still jumped on it. What is your thoughts?" And the guy that owned the shop said, "My only question is, what are we building for next year?" And I was
There you
like,
go.
"Done.
Yeah,
Let's go." I'll let it
yeah,
go.
for sure.
We got
I
home.
mean, it's your thing. You do whatever you want, but
Yeah.
from our standpoint, when I go at somebody, even here, and I tell them flat out, if you want a full sponsorship, I'm going to need a lot from you over the next few months.
Yep.
If
That
you
was
will
just
let me,
weird. We couldn't have wrote that if we did a fictional book on how that would happen. Like the whole process, the guy walking up said, "Hey, can I use your phone charger to charge my phone while we talk?" I'm just like, I don't know this dude.
right?
Dropped it off in Oklahoma City on the way home. The crazy part, so I sold it to him, dropped it off in Oklahoma City. Him and his wife and his brother got killed in a plane crash a couple years later. I became friends with his son. He brought the truck to LST one year. We did some pictures with it in the Tundra together. It went to Texas when he sold it. Like I think once all the kids reached 18, they kind of liquidated their parents' stuff. Then it went to Georgia. Then it went to Tennessee. The crazy part is it's back in my hometown now, and I get sent pictures of it at least once a week. I pass it at least once a month all over town. I was like, "Isn't that your truck?" I'm like, how does it make it back to Asheville, North Carolina, of all places in the world?
Wow. Yeah.
I mean,
It's
it's not
crazy.
the same truck it was because I tried to buy it back a year ago, and I was like, "Man, it still looks good." And I got up to it in person and was like, it's not so
Yeah.
good. But
20 feet or 20 beers, one of the
yeah,
two. Yeah.
but the fact
2020.
that it wound up back, yeah, that whole story, like we literally joked about it that whole way to Oklahoma City. Is like, there's no way this is real. Like, there's no way this happening. But I think because that truck sold, it basically snowballed into me doing
Sure.
something every year. And like the
Sure.
guy that bought my Tundra, my brown truck, he still has truck, trailer, and bike in Austin. Like he still shows it, he still drives it. Like it's still, that I still keep up with these guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
That's
that
good.
I know, like even my local stereo shop was kind of pissed because they thought they were going to be able to park it out front and all that stuff, and it just I didn't plan to sell it. That's why I gave him a stupid price, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm good. Let's go."
At that point, what do you do?
Yep.
It's sold, but yeah. So I mean, like that's it. Like if we get that deep into it, then I need to see some stuff for a while. But and I tell a lot of bigger builder guys, like, let me just give you like this modified version of a sponsorship, and then you can go do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I just need some photos, take it to a show or two, call it a day, post it on Instagram, post it on your Facebook, do a YouTube video, whatever you do. Good enough because it's a modified thing where there's a little bit of money, changing hands.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other options. And I think some guys go about sponsorships with it's free or nothing. And be careful when you ask for that because sometimes they come with stipulations. I remember like what was it? I did was it SBC brakes? Was that SBC? Yeah.
SSBC.
SSBC. Sorry guys, it's been a while, but I did that, and like that was the first one that came over with this like contract, and it literally stated like if you don't get this coverage, if it doesn't go here, you need to put this credit card on file. We're hitting you full pop, full pop
Yep.
retail, and those brakes weren't cheap.
No.
And I was like, cool, I got this, But what if you're the guy that doesn't got this? And then that happens, and to be honest, doing the paperwork's just too much of a mess. So I just tell them flat out, here's how it's going to work. You can hit me up for that, or I can do this, and we could get through SEMA, and whatever you do, you do.
Well, it's like Beltec for my Sierra. Like they gave me, I didn't know them. They gave me 50 off, and then I paid the 50%, and then once the magazine hit for the install article, they reimbursed me the 50% to make sure it went through. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, now I work with them. They know how I work. They know what's what. So like they're handling the suspension for the Tahoe. They're handling suspension for the Maverick. Like, once you build that rapport with them, it works.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure. And we don't do a lot of we don't get deep into a lot of them. And the guys know it. The folks I work with know that I've only got 2 or 3 that I'm probably going to get really heavy in. But if they've got other stuff happening, or other builds
Yeah.
they're aware of, then we'll help out at some point. But there's got to be a back end to it. There's got to be a return. It's an investment, whether you like it or not. It still costs us money. It's still money out of our bank or whatever, out of our pocket, not our bank.
Yeah.
But there's still a value to it, and there's got to be kind of a return. There's got to be a little bit of thought. And some dudes like this one guy River that we sponsor with Powerbase. Probably one of the best sponsors I've ever been involved with. He's always doing stuff. He's always thinking about us. It's like he puts us up first when it comes to anything he's thinking about car related. He's always at shows. He's just constantly, doing stuff. And he's an awesome dude. And he even hits us up with like ideas of, marketing things that he thought about or whatever. And cool dude. I really like working with him. Guys like that, that's what you truly want. You want the guys that are waving the flag every day. And he's definitely that dude.
Well, I get people all the time like, oh, it's a SEMA build, so that means you're not out of pocket at all. I'm like, do you know the thousands of dollars that I'm spending to make the vehicle work? Then I got to get it to Vegas. Then I got to pay for the hotel. Then I got to get it home. Like, it's not a free ride. And
no.
People think that, oh, it's SEMA, so you can get me parts and you can get me. I'm like, cool. What's your budget? And they're like, what do you mean? What's my budget? I'm like, you need 10 to 20 grand to get a vehicle there. Plus you got to buy a vehicle.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know it was that. I'm like, yeah.
Yep. Start writing checks.
Yep.
That's basically it. But yeah, and I did all that. I think ultimately, like, what happens is you'll tell yourself, hey, I'm going to buy this truck. I'm going to spend 20 or 30 grand, and that's going to be life. And I think as we grow and change, our hobbies change, our passions change, and we just dump more money into other things. And that's kind of what I did. I started going to F1 races, which aren't cheap, and buying shoes.
You're big into that.
Yeah, and buying shoes by the drove. So I don't build cars anymore, but I still spend money elsewhere. It's just never ending.
So that leads us to the next topic. Something else that ties me and you together is we both have a sneaker addiction.
That we do. It's definitely an addiction.
What's your Instagram page that you have for the?
It's Air Maxed D. Yeah. Air Max _D.
Yeah.
That kind of handles shoe stuff. I haven't done a lot on there. I've just been too busy.
So how many pairs of sneakers do you have right now? Do you know?
Last I checked, like 90.
So you're only like 10 above me right now. So that means I need to buy a few.
Sure, why not? I actually just sold like, I think 10 or so pair in the last couple of months.
Now, see, you go over to Europe quite a bit, so you get some of the stuff that you can't get. I know when me and the wife went to Italy, that was my number one goal, is to find shoes I could not find in the U.S. So I bought 3 pair over there. One of them, the colorway was, if you look it up in the U.S., it's women's only, but they had men's, which the women's Nikes are always a better colorway than the men's ever are. But
and they fit better because they're a little bit more narrow.
But they were a men's shoe in Italy. But then I found a couple other pairs, and I got mad because one of the 3 I bought are now on Nike US's website that they wasn't when we were in Italy.
Sure.
We literally bought another piece of luggage to ship back because I'd bought so many shoes while we were in Italy. So, oops.
Yep. Every time I'd go to the UK, and that's where it started. Carl, my friend Carl from the UK, he came over years back, had a whole bunch of Air Maxes in his, I think it was 90s mainly, in his bag. And like every day was a new pair out. And I'm like, man, I kind of like that. I like having a different pair every day.
Match the shirt to it, or
and like I was like, yeah, I'm doing this. Like I just got behind it all of a sudden. And then I tried to buy the Air Max Para Air Max 1s, and that was the first time I'd got on sneakers or whatever, and I couldn't just buy them. And I was mad.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't understand this. I'm ready. I'm awake. It's 7 a.m. What do you mean I can't have it? What do you mean? Draw clothes. What's this? And so I dove deep, man. I got bots. I got into just so much stuff. I was buying stuff I didn't even need. And then like you, I went to Europe a lot. I still do. And every year I seem to come back with a duffel bag. And that duffel bag is purchased normally at Supreme or something like that. And I fill it up with shoes and other stuff. And the last trip, I told Carl, I said, I'm packing a little lighter, and I'm not buying another duffel bag. I'm coming back with what I brought, and I did. I made it work. I still bought shoes, and just like you, they ended up on the U.S. market, like the last couple of months.
Yeah. Do you keep
And
those in your boxes?
I take them out. I keep all the boxes, but I have them in plastic boxes.
See, I don't have the room for plastic boxes. I literally have measured like 10 times. I'm almost ready to buy another house just so I can have a fourth bedroom, so I can have a sneaker room.
Well, when I bought this house here, and I kind of looked over it, and I thought, all right, this room we could do drums and shoes, and it's going to be amazing. And a friend of mine said, nah, you ain't doing that. Come on. Nah, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, but it's going to be cool. There's going to be a whole wall of shoes. And the reality was, like, they were right. Like, I have them in a closet, and I have them in another room. But the ones in the other room, I don't wear as much as the ones in the closet.
This
And it's
closet
because I got to leave the room to go get them and see. And I don't see them. So when I'm deciding what I'm wearing, I'm like looking at this wall. And if they're not in that wall, they don't get picked much. So like they were 100% right. Like I didn't need it to be down the hall in some other room, push a button, go through a code around a staircase and down to the next, down to the vault. I didn't need all that. But it did spill out into another room now. And sometimes I look at it and think, what am I doing? And I actually have them insured.
Really? I didn't know that.
They are listed on my home owner's policy at, I think, 30 grand, 35 grand or something right now.
You realize you just cost me money because I'm calling my insurance agent on Monday.
Yeah, you can add it. You can add them as items. And I did that after my house in Brea flooded, and I came home to like pairs floating, in the house. And I thought, I don't know what to do here. And my drums were like in there, and he was like, we can do the drums. We need to list what you got. We can do the shoes. It can be kind of a bulk number. Just guess, that kind of thing. And obviously the more you put on that, the more your premium is going to go up. But yeah, they're there. They're listed in under household items. They're itemized in there.
Even if you buy them at standard retail and you're like 130, 150, you still, for people like us, it adds up pretty quick. And that's without counting the ones that are extra because you do miss out on the sale and you still want it bad enough. And
yeah. I mean, I made a list back then, and there's like one pair left that I don't have, and I don't know if I want it now because it's just too much money. But
which ones?
Well, there's like two, but one of them's not obtainable. That's the Albert Heijn Air Max one. That you're never going to find that. That was made for a grocery store, I think it is, or supermarket in the Netherlands. It's like orange and blue, and they only made so many. You're never going to find that pair. So that one doesn't really count. But the only one left was the Sean Witherspoon Air Max one. That was the only one that I hadn't gotten.
Love to have those.
I had it in my hands in London at this store, and I should have bought it then. But back then, I felt it was too expensive. Hindsight, I probably should have got it, but I didn't want to spend that much at the time.
I've seen them. What's the big store in Vegas and Caesars? The big store.
Urban Necessities.
The what?
Urban Necessities.
Yeah. I've seen them there, but it's like I can't justify buying that.
Yeah, I mean they're out there. I just don't want to spend the money. I mean, used to, I might have thought about it. I mean, I spent $2,000 on the Dior Jordans, but that was worth it. I sold them for $10,000 a week later.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess that was worth it.
I paid taxes. I actually paid taxes on selling shoes that year. Thanks to those.
The bad part is I've got my daughter into shoes now, so anytime I post something on my story or something like, "Hey, picked up a new pair," she'll text me and go, "And mine are where?" And I'm like, "No, that's not how this works." She keeps them in her boxes. Like we just helped her move to Charlotte a few weeks ago, and like all her boxes are stacked up in her closet, and she's a 90 or a 97 Air Max.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I stayed pretty true to the one in the 90 in the beginning, pretty heavy. And then they just stopped doing anything. And so I switched over to Yeezy for a little bit. I tried one pair on and I was like, these are pretty comfy. And so I got a few of those. And then I went to Jordan's, Jordan 1s or whatever. And I got a few of those. But most of the collection is ones and 90s.
I've changed over to some Dunk Lows lately. Those are
Yeah, I mean that's a Jordan 1 for
yeah.
skateboarding basically, but yeah, I mean the Dunks are cool. I've got a couple of SB pairs that are neat, but it doesn't help either. Like Juanito here in the office, he's a shoe dude also, and so he's constantly like, hey, these are on sale. And like I'm walking down the hallway, and he's like, hey, do you see these shoes are on sale? I'm
My
like, I'm trying
my
not to buy this much.
my question is, how many people have we lost on this podcast in the last 5 minutes on?
Yeah, for sure. Right? It's definitely not about automotive at this point, but
But I think the custom shoe stuff and the automotive stuff, I think goes hand in hand. Because if you look when you walk around a show, people that are into the high end custom stuff, 90% of them have like crazy shoes on that aren't your
oh
typical.
sure. Yeah, I mean, I think customizing your car is because you want to have a certain look or a certain aesthetic about it, and I think when you get dressed, you still want to have some kind of style, and that's
Yeah.
to me that's kind of it. Like, I've always been a bigger dude, but I could buy hats or I could buy shoes almost anywhere. I mean, now I can kind of fit in other things, but
Yeah.
back in the day, it was pretty much you could just buy shoes or hats.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you kind of you want to put the look together, right? And so that's part of it, man. I mean, it's fun too. I think it's a cool culture, just like the car culture. The people in that are awesome people. I've rarely really met anybody I don't like in that world too.
Yeah.
There's dudes I talk to every day about shoe stuff, just like car guys. I talk to car guys every day, and I've made lifelong friends on both sides of that spectrum. So I think they do play hand in hand, really.
I've got friends that were never really into it. Now all of a sudden they reach out. I'm like, hey, don't you have such and such pair? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, what size is that? Do you want to sell it? I'm like, wait a minute, you were never into shoes. And like, oh, I got like 30 pair now. I'm like, it just started. Yeah, you're about to go broke.
Give it a minute. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and discussing some of the backstory that you've had. I mean, you've had your hand in pretty much, I guess, say a ton of the big companies in our industry.
Yeah.
We've seen each other at shows for a couple decades now. So, I guess
Yeah,
that's one of my
I've been
things.
doing it a while. That's for sure.
I think one of my things is every time I see you at SEMA, the first thing I do, I'm like, all right, what shoes is he having on? They're usually some black, comfortable bullshit shoes that you're like, man, I'm standing here all day. I got to have something comfortable.
Yeah, on the last day. The last day, I always bring out something. I mean, I had Travis Scott Air Max 1s on the last day this past season.
Don't lie, they're white New Balances with the blue N on the side of it.
Yeah, I don't have those. Actually, don't have a single pair of New Balance, but crazy.
Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was good catching up with you and sharing a little insight on what you deal with, and look forward to seeing you. I guess I'll probably run into you at SEMA again this year.
Yeah, man, it's been fun. Thanks for having me. It's been neat, kind of going down memory lane on some stuff, and I mean, dude, we could probably go down memory lane on some of the antics along the way, but I think that's for a whole different show. So if you start that show, then let me know. I'll come and do that one. But,
YouTube might, shadow ban me if I wind up pulling some of that stuff up.
They might. Yeah, they really might. So,
all right,
yeah, man, it's been awesome. I appreciate you having me.
All right, thanks, man.
All right, we'll see you.